Hi, everybody. It's Jay, and I am back in the booth with you for another sneak peek video preview for this week's new release here on Say with Jay. This week's new release is Just a Cowboy's Princess. It's the 8th book in Jessie Gussman's Flyboys of Sweet Briar Ranch series, and I've got more about the story and a live preview reading for you in just a bit. But first, Jessie, as she's been doing, has included a recipe in this story, and I'm going to make it for you today in another segment of Cooking with Jay. Now, warmer temperatures are upon us, or soon will be, depending on where you are. And with those warmer temperatures means we're out and about more. We've got family gatherings and church gatherings. The birds and the squirrels and the chipmunks are out. And by the way, thanks again to my friend and friend of this channel, Bernadette, for sending me this awesome shirt. But as we get out and about and interacting with people once again, you might need a dessert to carry with you to a function. And with warmer temperatures, who doesn't like a light and healthy dessert? Well, this is not that. Sorry, if you're after a light and healthy dessert, you may want to just scroll on to the reading for now. Now, that's not to say it's not delicious. It absolutely is. It's just that this dessert marries 3 of the titans of the dessert world: brownies, cheesecake, and Oreos. That's right, today we're going to be making Oreo Cheesecake Brownies. Now, hopefully that's whetted your appetite just a bit. And before we get started, as always, don't worry about trying to capture the ingredients or any of that. It'll all be down in the description down below. So let's get started. All right, let's start with our ingredients. It's not a long list. First, you're going to need 1 box of brownie mix, 24 ounces of cream cheese, softened, 3/4 cup of sugar, 2 eggs, beaten, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and 36 Oreos. Now, just a little pro tip here. I believe a regular size package of Oreos has 36, but that's not the kind of thing you want to leave to chance, so I strongly recommend getting the family size pack. Wink, wink. Your first step is to prepare your brownie mix per the package instructions in a bowl. In a separate bowl, you're going to want to mix together the cream cheese and the sugar until there are no lumps. Add the egg and vanilla to your cream cheese mixture and stir that until they're evenly combined. Or mix. Next, you want to grease a 9x13 baking pan and go ahead and preheat your oven to 325 degrees. Spread your brownie batter in an even layer on the bottom of the pan. Then you're going to place 24 of your Oreos in a single layer on top of the brownie batter. To fill in the edges, cut 6 of the Oreos in half and nudge those in. Next, pour the cheesecake batter on top, spreading it evenly over the cookies. Finally, crush 6 cookies and sprinkle those on top of your cheesecake batter. Next, you'll bake it for about 45 minutes at 325 degrees until the edges are slightly golden brown and the middle is still slightly jiggly. After that comes the hardest part. You need to cool it until it's nearly completely cool, and then chill it for at least 2 hours. Yes, you've got to wait 2 more hours. But after that, it's time to slice and serve. And here you go. Enjoy your Oreo Cheesecake Brownie Bars. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all there is to it. It's remarkably simple for as delicious as it is. And I hope you'll try it, and if you do, please let us know how it goes down in the comments. All right, let's talk a little bit about Just a Cowboy's Princess. Just a Cowboy's Princess is the story of Princess Kennedy Weaver Payne, known as Kenny to her friends. Kenny is an American who was swept off her feet by the prince of the nation of Corinth. It turns out that her fairy tale wedding and life wasn't what she thought it would be, and she now finds herself divorced as the prince has left her for another woman. She's come back to America, and Sweetwater, in particular, because her brother Zeke is there. Now, Zeke insisted she come to Sweetwater not only to recover mentally from her divorce, but also because there was an attempted abduction on her person when she was still in Corinth. And he wants to protect his little sister. Now, once she's in Sweetwater, she finds that even though she's no longer a princess, the paparazzi that hounded her when she was has followed her to Sweetwater. As well, there's still that lingering threat of an abduction, with the hope being that the throne in Corinth would pay a ransom, even though she's no longer officially the princess. Well, her brother Zeke sends his best friend Baker to protect her, to immediately protect her once she arrives in Sweetwater, and they hatch a rather crazy, spur-of-the-moment plan to not only get her away from the paparazzi, but also negate the threat of a future kidnapping. I won't spoil exactly what that plan is, but instead, here is a live reading of the opening scene from Just a Cowboy's Princess. I hope you enjoy it, and then come back this Friday for the full release here on Say with Jay. The paparazzi had arrived. Princess Kennedy Weaver Payne, known as Kenny to her family and friends, froze on the sidewalk as 3 cars pulled up to the diner in Sweetwater, catty-corner across the street from where she was. People pouring out of all 4 doors, cameras around their necks, phones in hand, press badges lying like bullseyes on lanyards across their chests. Thankfully, they didn't glance her way. Possibly it was because of the short brown hair, or maybe the cheap $5 department store sunglasses, or maybe it was the prairie skirt and peasant blouse she wore. Hardly the long blonde locks they were used to seeing, perfectly coiffured, the designer suits, and expensive matching pumps. An outfit like she normally wore would draw their eye immediately, but would definitely make her look out of place in this small town. Regardless, the second-to-last person paused on the sidewalk, looking up at the sky before slowly turning. Kenny's eyes opened wide, and her heart beat hard. While she felt like her new look was different enough from her old one that she probably wouldn't be recognized, her brother would kill her if he knew she just stood on the sidewalk while the paparazzi poured out around her. Seeing the big shaggy cow that her brother had told her was Sweetwater's own matchmaking steer, which had caused Kenny to roll her eyes at the antics small towns would go to in order to pull in tourism dollars, just up the street from where she stood, she took 5 big strides and ducked down behind it. It had been standing in the same spot since she arrived with her brother in his pickup, contentedly chewing its cud, with its eyes half closed, looking like it had nothing better in the world to do than stand along the sidewalk in Sweetwater and soak up the summer sun. Kenny had been a little jealous. Billy, that's what Zeke, her brother, had said the steer's name was the town celebrity, and yet he could stand on the sidewalk in peace, no one criticizing his every move, critiquing his outfit, his mannerism, whether he smiled or didn't, and whether it was the right time to smile or, worse than that, determining that it was somehow Billy's fault that his spouse had cheated on him, the way Kenny's had cheated on her. Pain went through her, not so much because she had been madly in love with her husband, but because she had trusted him, and his betrayal cut deep. Taking a deep breath that shook as it entered her body, she tried to focus on the moment at hand, bending over and making sure that her entire body was hidden behind the steer, who hadn't seemed to notice that anything had changed in his life. Or maybe he was just used to people crouching down behind him trying to hide themselves from the paparazzi that normally descended upon the small town. Hardly. Maybe she shouldn't have come. It seemed like such a quaint town, so old-fashioned almost, and friendly. She hated to ruin those vibes with the sharks that circled the water around her, sensing blood and wanting to get a part of the kill. "Excuse me, I'm going to assume that you're Kenny," a deep voice said above her. If she hadn't been bent over, trying to hide herself behind the steer's body, obviously not acting like a normal person, she might have described the voice as sexy. Definitely the kind of voice that sent all the good shivers down her backbone and made her fingertips tingle. One that actually sounded familiar. Probably because she'd heard it shouting at her at some point to turn around so he could get a better picture. The paparazzi had found her. She reminded herself just in time not to move, even as her brain was saying that the paparazzi did not call her Kenny. She was Princess Kennedy, and her name had never been shortened from the time Isaac had first introduced her to his world until she had stepped out of it just a couple of months ago. She tilted her head, maybe against her better judgment, to get a better look at the man who had come over and had just crouched down beside her. He had crouched. He wore a t-shirt, which stretched over his shoulders, his brown neck showing that he spent time in the sun, and similar brown arms that were roped with muscle. Worn blue jeans. Not exactly the clothes the paparazzi usually wore when they chased her. Plus, he had a cowboy hat pulled low over his eyes, like he used it to shade his face and not to make himself look good. There was something familiar about the angle of his jaw. "It's a risky thing to make assumptions," she finally said, not forgetting, even in her nervousness and insecurity, to use anything other than her most cultured voice. "You don't sound like the Kenny I knew," the man said with a little bit of a grin. "Who are you?" she asked, and though she might be crouching behind a cow, she wasn't going to beat around the bush. Not that there were any bushes in sight. "It was a long time ago. Your brother's in there dealing with the bottom feeders, and he sent me out here to rescue you, but he forgot to hand me his keys, and my truck is parked behind the diner. So we're going to have to figure out how to get you from here to there and make it look like you're supposed to be with me." Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.